Hello, thank you for joining me for today's Facebook Live. My name is Tracy Held. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne in Australia. Today we're going to be making this gift box. I am going to change it up. You probably know by now I've been working a lot with the Violet Dream Suite and I have that tutorial bundle all ready to go. I'm going to start doing assembly videos on my page here starting on Monday. So we've got 9 cards, so we'll have 9 days. I can't give you a definite time of when I'm going to be doing it because my husband works from home, and although we're in different rooms, we share the same voice space, so I'm going to just have to work it around when he has meetings. But we'll have 1 a day for next week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that'll show you how to make all the cards in that tutorial. If you want the tutorial, or if you're in Australia, I do have a class kit. I'll put the link up for that, but assembly videos will go up. So this is going to be a gift box that you can use with any of the cards in that tutorial bundle. And just to give you an idea of the size here, it is quite big. So I have actually packed some stuff in it. So there you go, you should be able to see. So I've got a glue and 3 of the new in-color ink pads. So these are the ones that are a bit longer than the others, and you can see, I'm going to drop this and it's going to go clunk. There we go. That all fits in there quite comfortably. So that just gives you some perspective on how big it is and what can fit in. Just put it on the side for the moment. I'll bring it back in later, but I'm going to need space to score. So for our box, and yes, here's a piece of DSP that I was cutting earlier, which had glue on it. Okay, we're going to need 2 pieces that form the box, and these measurements were done in inches and then they've just been directly converted to centimeters, so some of them may seem a bit strange, but they do work. So on the long side, we're going to score at 5 and 19.1 centimeters. And if we're working in inches, that's going to be 2 and 7.5 inches. And then I'm going to turn it, and we're going to score at 5 and 14 centimeters, which is 2 inches and 5.5 inches. All right, now before I put this piece away, I'm just going to mark on this and then we're going to come back to this. So I'm turning this, that it doesn't matter which side I'm using, but okay, turning and turning and turning. It's just because I marked my other one on that side, so I'm going to mark this one on this side. It doesn't really matter because it's just going to depend when you score it, but my other one's already cut and ready for us to go. So I'm going to mark here. So we're marking, hopefully you can see you've got one big, I've got bad shadow today, I'm not quite sure why that's happening. Okay, anyway, we're going to mark this at 7/8 of an inch, or 2.2 centimeters. So let's try and get to the right 7/8. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that there, and we're going to mark at 2.9 centimeters, or 1 1/8. Sorry, it's just suddenly I'm working on the wrong side, so things are a bit weird. Okay, put that aside just for 1 minute. We're coming back to that. But now I need my piece of cardstock that we're going to use for the lid. And we're going to score that on the short side at 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch. And we're going to score it at 3.2 centimeters, which is 1.25 inches. Okay, so that's all the scoring that we need for the lid. Move that out the way. Now, coming back to my box over here, and if you can do this on your trimmer, go for it. I can't, so I'm just going to do it on my mat. And I'm going to score from that mark to, and hopefully we can see here, the edge of my cardstock to that score line. It's always a problem on camera where you don't want to get your head in the way, but you need to be able to see what you're doing. And then from the corner where those two score lines meet to the mark. Okay, so we're making a sort of a V in that block. Now we're going to do some cutting, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that tab. So we're going to notch those two, and then I'm going to notch this long tab here, and we're cutting out the whole of this bottom bit. Now, I learned this the hard way, so because this piece is actually going to fit here between the V's, I want to make that a little bit shorter because otherwise it's getting in the way of those V's. Okay, so I'm going to cut that a bit shorter, and I'm not giving you a measurement here, it's just eyeball that one. And we're going to notch that. And then on my lid, I'm going to just notch the smaller tab as well. And that's all our cutting and scoring done. Sorry, I just knocked the camera. That's what happens when you flap your hands too high. So we can fold these along those score lines. I'm not finished cutting because I need to cut up along that bottom tab as well. Okay, now I might be finished cutting. I'm going to fold those score lines once I've got my box together, because that just then will help me make sure that I'm folding them the right way. And we can fold along the lid as well, those two score lines. Okay, now I've done my second piece, and just to save repetitiveness, I've actually stuck the DSP on. But what we're going to do is glue these together. Okay, so grab my adhesive, and we're going to put glue along this tab and that top one. And just glue those together. Okay. Let's just give the adhesive a couple of seconds to grab. And then we're going to Oh, clearly it needed a couple more seconds to grab there. I don't know, I think that because it's winter, the glue just takes longer to set because it's cold, and I'm just too impatient because I seem to be doing that regularly, is getting ready to go and then having things where they're not properly glued together. So let's try that again. And of course, after I did that, I had glue all over my fingers. So okay, I've really done a good job of messing that one up, but we'll fix it because that got glued to the wrong side. But, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to just re-glue it and I will sort that out. It will work. I will make it work. And then take two on gluing the other side together. Okay, and that should be really easy to do. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to fold along those score lines and they're going in. So you can see they are folding quite easily for me, except for my sticky fingers. And there we go. So when we're closing, my box is going to go like that. Let's just bend that score line a little bit. I obviously didn't fold along that one. I didn't want a big fold because it just folds a little, but it needs a little bit of help when it's going to close. Right, there we go. And then we're going to close up the bottom. So, side tabs down. Pop some glue on those. And just give it a little bit of a squish with your bone folder or the scissors or anything, just to make sure that those bottom tabs are holding. Now before I stick my lid on, I just want to round the edges. So this is an old corner rounder punch that I have, whatever you've got to round the edges. If you don't have anything, just take a circle and trace around the edges, and as long as you're putting it at the same place, that will hold. And then we're going to put some glue on that bigger flap over there where we cut the sides down, and stick that onto the back of the box. Now you don't have to cut these sides if you choose not to. I didn't on my original box, which is why I have done it on this one. Just, I'll show you, because then when I stick my DSP over, I don't know if you can see it here, and it may just be me overthinking it, but you can actually see the edge sticking out, which is why if we've cut it at that angle, my DSP is going to cover that completely. Exactly like this. Okay, so at least you've got you can see a little bit of it, but it's not as much of an edge sticking out there. And like I say, that may just be me overthinking it. And then we've got another piece of the DSP. I'm just looking at the positioning here because I know what I want to do on the front. So round the edges. This is for the front of it. And if your DSP is directional, just make sure that you're rounding the bottom edges. And then that's going to go into our front flap over here. Oops. Okay, today's one of those days where nothing seems to want to stick straight for me. And our last piece is going onto the bottom over here. Okay, right, now I also have a really thin strip of the DSP, which I'm going to put on my very thin score over there. You can leave it just your cardstock, but I think that I prefer it with this little strip of DSP, and it is tiny, but it's always the tiny little things that make a difference, don't you think? Go. And let's just stick my other bits on. So, like I said, I'd stuck on the one piece just because I kind of think that it gets really boring if you're watching me gluing and gluing and gluing. So I try and do as much as I can in advance, but sometimes there's things that just have to be done in a specific order, and this is one of them. I could not glue these until I'd done the scoring, which I wanted to show you. And I've cut this one too long as well, which is why I had DSP on there, because I did the same on the other side, so at least I'm consistent, but I thought that I'd only got one wrong instead of both. Okay. I will put the correct measurements up, so don't worry, yours will work when you do it. Okay. And then we want a closure, so if you like the magnetic closures, then use that before you stick your DSP on, but I'm just going to use these adhesive back Velcro dots, so roughly in the middle. And then what I always do is just stick the other one on top of it. And now we have extra sticky because I have sticky fingers and sticky dots. And then just fold it closed and give it a gentle press. We don't want to squish it too much. And I did have a strip of cloud cover cardstock, which, here it is hiding away from me, not anymore. I found it, so I'm just going to score this at 1 centimeter. You could do that at 1/2 inch. Just want a little bit on the side, and yes, I will go and clean my trimmer strip now, get rid of all the extra gluey bits. So we're going to bend that on that score line, and then with your bone folder, just gently curve your paper. So we want it to have a bit of a bend for the handle, and then I'm going to just glue these two little ends. You could use ribbon, but I like the cardstock because then it stands up. The ribbon's going to flop, and just stick that on. And I will be patient and just hold it for a minute to let the glue dry. Okay. And I'm going to be super lazy this time. the DSP has these pop-out pieces, so I've just taken one of the pop-out pieces and I'm going to stick it on with dimensionals. You could, of course, you know, stamp and color and use one of the images from the stamp set here, but sometimes it's easier just to go the lazy route. And I'm not going to put a sentiment on this just because I don't know whether it's going to be for a birthday or, like I say, if you're going to fill it with your craft stuff, it could be any kind of present, but we're going to put the pretty flowers on. And then because I've got, let's pull my other one back in so you can see the differences. So because I've got the pattern DSP on the top, I'm not going to put another flower on the top, but what I'm going to do is just take some of these really pretty embellishments that come in the suite and just put 3 going across the top over here. And this is where I was looking at this DSP to decide where I wanted my, because the one piece had the sort of crosses higher up, you know, and I obviously didn't give the glue time to set. And the other one had them lower down, so that was where I was deciding which piece I wanted where. Okay, so that will now stick. And there we go. There's our boxes. So you can see that they are quite easy to make. They do go together pretty quickly. They are really sizable, so you can put nice things in. They won't fit a card. I tried to put a card in here, but they just not long enough this way and not tall enough that way. So you have to put your cards separately, but you can put a really nice little gift in there. And I'm sure that whoever gets them will appreciate the box. So there we go. That's our live for today. I will see you on Monday for the assembly videos for the Violet Dreams suite. Otherwise, I will be back next week Sunday. So see you then. Bye for now.